April 8, 1943, 27,000 feet above Caen, France. The Spitfire's Merlin engine coughs once, twice, then dies. Flight Lieutenant James Jimmy Hargrove, 23 years old, 612 Squadron, grips the stick as the propeller windmills into silence. Frost spiders across the canopy. His gloved fingers numb against the throttle, useless now. Flak bursts bloom black and orange below. Lazy cotton balls from this height, but each one carries the punch of a freight train. A Messerschmitt 109 streaks past. Cannon's winking tracers stitch the sky like molten threads. One round punches through the port wing root. Fuel vapors hiss. The cockpit fills with the sweet stink of high octane. You can almost feel the freezing wind clawing through the bullet holes. Taste the copper on your tongue. Jimmy's oxygen mask fogs with every ragged breath. The altimeter unwinds. 25,000, 22,000. The English Channel glitters far below, a cruel mirror. He yanks the canopy release. It jams. Another burst of 20 millimeters rips the tail. The Spitfire rolls inverted. Gravity pins him to the seat. With a grunt, he kicks the canopy. It tears away in the slipstream. Icy air slaps his face like a wet towel. Bailout drill. Feet on the seat, hands on the ripcord ring. Push. He tumbles into the void. The Spitfire spirals away. A silver dart trailing smoke. Silk blooms above him. His parachute cracks open with a sound like a rifle shot. The roar fades. Only wind now, and the distant drone of the dogfight. Jimmy dangles, swaying, scanning the patchwork fields rushing up. German soil. He spots the crash site, a wooded ravine 2 miles east. The Spitfire slams nose first into a stand of pines. A dull thud. A fireball blossoms, orange against green. Black smoke coils skyward, a signal no one asked for. On the ground, Wehrmacht troops are already moving. A Kubelwagen skids to a halt on a dirt track. Oberleutnant Karl Richter, Luftwaffe Technical Intelligence, steps out with a Leica camera slung around his neck. He shades his eyes, watching the parachute drift. English pilot. A sergeant mutters. Richter nods. Secure the wreck first. The pilot is secondary. Jimmy lands hard in a plowed field. Ankle twisting, he cuts the shrouds, buries the chute under loose soil, and limps toward the tree-line. Boots crunch behind him. A shout in German. He runs. Branches whip his face. A pistol shot cracks. Pain explodes in his left calf. He stumbles, rolls down an embankment, splashes into an ice-rimmed stream. Darkness swallows him as he crawls beneath an overhang of roots. Above, flashlights sweep. Dogs bark. His breath steams in short, panicked bursts. Back at the crash, Richter kneels beside the shattered fuselage. The fire has burned itself out, leaving twisted aluminum and the sharp tang of scorched dope. Something catches his eye. A wing panel, sheared clean but still attached by a thin, translucent seam. He runs a gloved finger along it. It doesn't flex, doesn't tear. Was ist das, he whispers. The metal around the seam is crumpled like paper, yet the joint holds as if forged in one piece. Richter pries with a bayonet. The blade skids. He leans closer, breath fogging the surface. A faint chemical smell, sweet, almost fruity. Not rivets, not welds, glue. He stands slowly, heart quickening. Orders the wreck loaded onto a flatbed on the top. No one touches that seam until Berlin sees it. Miles away, in a damp cellar beneath a bombed-out farmhouse, Jimmy Hargrove binds his bleeding leg with a torn map. Footsteps overhead. A door creaks. Torchlight spills down the stairs. What did the Germans just find in the bones of his Spitfire? April 9, 1943. Dawn. A stone barn outside Reims, repurposed as a transient holding pen. Jimmy Hargrove sits on a milking stool, wrists zip-tied with baling wire. His flight suit is shredded. Dried blood crusts the left leg. A single bulb swings overhead, painting shadows across the faces of 2 guards smoking azote cigarettes. The air reeks of mildew and horse piss. Across the yard, under floodlights, the Spitfire's carcass lies on a lowboy trailer like a gutted fish. Technicians in gray coveralls swarm it with angle grinders and calipers. Oberleutnant Karl Richter stands apart, notebook in hand, sketching the mysterious seam. The Luftwaffe Major Hauptmann Voss, or Probunkstelle Recklin, arrives by staff car, boots crunching gravel. Richter salutes. The joint resisted a cold chisel. Hardness exceeds duralumin, yet it's flexible under torsion. Voss lifts an eyebrow. Show me. Richter leads him to the wing root. He grips the torn panel and twists. Metal screams elsewhere, but the glued seam merely dimples, then springs back. Voss whistles low. Stronger than the airframe itself. What do the British call this witchcraft? Inside the barn, a door bangs open. Jimmy squints against the light. Richter enters with 2 Feldgendarmerie. The interrogation begins in clipped German, then switches to accented English. Name and rank. Flight Lieutenant James Hargrove, Royal Air Force Unit. Jimmy recites his service number. Nothing more. Richter smiles thinly. Your aircraft interests us more than you do, Lieutenant. That adhesive, where is it applied? Factory or squadron level? Jimmy's pulse spikes. Adhesive. He'd watched ground crew slap patches on bullet holes with some new goo from a red tin. Beats me, sir. I just fly the bloody thing. Richter nods to a guard. A rifle butt drives into Jimmy's ribs. Air whooshes out. He doubles over, tasting iron. Outside, Voss telephones Berlin. The conversation is terse. Within the hour, orders come back. Dissect the wreck at Rechlin. Priority 1. The pilot interrogate, then ship to WWII Luft. By noon, the convoy rolls north to Opel trucks, an escort of motorcycle outriders. The flatbed with the Spitfire under canvas. Richter rides in the cab, cradling a sample jar. Inside, a thumb-sized flake of the clear glue, peeled from the seam with a heated blade. It catches the light like amber. Jimmy, hands cuffed behind him, sits in the second truck between two silent guards. Each rut in the road jars his wounded calf. He watches the jar through the canvas flap, mind racing. That glue saved the wing from tearing off entirely, maybe saved his life. Now it's headed straight to the heart of the Reich. At a railway siding near Leon, the convoy halts. Soldiers load the Spitfire onto a flat car. Richter boards a passenger coach with the sample locked in a steel dispatch case. Jimmy is shoved into a cattle wagon with other captured airmen, some American, some Polish. The doors slam. Darkness, the stink of fierce sweat and unwashed wool. As the train lurches eastward, Jimmy leans toward a whisper-thin Canadian pilot. They're taking something off my kite. Clear stuff, like resin, stronger than the metal. The Canadian's eyes widen. Redeemer glue. Christ, if Jerry cracks that. The train whistle shrieks. Sparks from the locomotive drift past the slats like fireflies. Somewhere ahead, in a secret hangar at Rechlin, German chemists are already heating beakers, preparing to unravel Britain's hidden edge. But Jimmy Hargrove still has one card left to play. April 12, 1943. 2:17 a.m. Arperbunkstel, Rechlin, Hangar 7 blacked out, guarded by SS Scharführer with Schmeisser slung low. A single pool of light falls from a gooseneck lamp onto a stainless steel table. The Spitfire's wing root lies there like a surgical patient. Ribs splayed. Dr. Ingeborg Müller, 31, lead chemist of Sonderprojekt Kleber, leans over the seam in magnifying goggles. Her breath fogs the lens. Beside her, Oberleutnant Richter watches, arms folded. A gramophone in the corner plays Wagner at low volume, someone's idea of inspiration. Muller scrapes a scalpel along the glue line. A translucent ribbon curls up like orange peel. She drops it into a porcelain dish. Phenomenal shear strength. 4,200 psi at least. Rivets fail at 2,800. Richter's voice is soft. Can we make it? Muller doesn't answer yet. She pipettes acetone onto the sample. Nothing. Then tellurine still intact. She tries hot xylene finally. The edge softens, but the core remains glassy. Polymer backbone unknown. Not casein. Not baked, light cross-linked. Possibly urea formaldehyde base. But with an elasticizer we don't have. Across the hangar, a Fieseler torches propeller ticks as it cools. Beyond the doors, searchlights sweep the Baltic sky. Routine, but tonight every beam feels accusatory. Richter opens the dispatch case, removes Jimmy's flight log, salvaged from the cockpit. A red tin is taped inside the cover. Redeemer Repair Compound, Ministry of Aircraft Production, do not freeze. The label is half scorched, but the warning is clear. Muller reads it aloud. Redeemer, cute. She turns to a junior technician. Telephone Peanut Moon. Tell Oberst Dornberger we need their mass spectrometer by dawn. Meanwhile, 400 kilometers south. In a cattle wagon sidetracked at Frankfurt, Jimmy Hargrove trades his RAF escape saw for a sliver of information. The Canadian pilot flying officer Marcel Dubois, RCAF, knows the glue. Developed by ICI in 41, Marcel whispers through cracked lips. Accident actually. Bloke named Norman De Bruyne mixed the wrong resins. Stuck to aluminum plates so hard they had to cut the table in half to separate them. Jimmy's eyes gleam in the dark, and the formula, locked up tighter than the king's jewels. Only 3 men know the full recipe. One's in Canada, one's in a submarine, and the third, Marcel, taps his temple. Dead plane went down over the North Sea last year. The train jolts forward. Destination Oberursel, WWII Luft, interrogation center. Jimmy's calf throbs, infection setting in. He needs a doctor, but more than that, he needs to get word out. If the Germans reverse engineer Redeemer, every FW-190 will shrug off 20 millimeters like raindrops. Back in Rechlin, Muller works through the night. By 5 o'clock she has a crude duplicate, cloudy, brittle, fails at 1,100 psi. She slams the dish down. Glass shatters. Richter flinches. We need the catalyst, she says. The missing monomer. Without it, we're children with crayons. Richter stares at the wing. An idea forms. The pilot, Hargrove, he patched battle damage in the field. He has used it. Muller's eyes narrow. Bring him at 7 o'clock. Orders flash along the wire. Divert the prisoner train to Rechlin siding. Priority override signed by Milk himself. Jimmy, feverish, is dragged from the wagon at gunpoint. The platform smells of coal smoke and wet pine. He squints at the hangar doors, yawning open like a hangar mouth. Inside, the Spitfire's ghost waits under canvas. Richter meets him on the threshold. Lieutenant, you're going to help us save your empire. Jimmy spits blood onto the concrete. Go to hell, Richter smiles. Eventually, but first, you'll watch us tear your secret apart one molecule at a time. Behind them, Muller ignites a Bunsen burner. Blue flame dances. The real interrogation is about to begin. April 13, 1943. 14 o'clock Recklin, sub-basement, 3 concrete walls, sweating condensation, a single steel chair bolted to the floor. Jimmy Hargrove is shirtless, wrists cuffed to the armrests. His calf is swollen purple, pus seeping through the makeshift bandage. A medic jabs a needle morphine just enough to keep him lucid. Dr. Muller stands 3 paces away, white coat spotless, clipboard in hand. Richter leans against a workbench cluttered with beakers, a Zeiss microscope, and the red tin of Redeemer like a holy relic. A rhetorical recorder whirs. Muller speaks first, voice calm, almost maternal. "Lieutenant, we know the compound is applied cold. No heat, no pressure, yet it cures in minutes. How Jimmy's tongue is thick?" asked the tin. Richter steps forward, lifts a strip of aluminum patched with a thumbnail of Redeemer. He clamps one end in a vise, the other to a spring scale, turns the handle, the metal bends, the glue holds. 3,800, 4,100, 4,300 psi. The aluminum tears first. Richter lets the scale swing. "Your ground crew used this in the field. You watched. Describe the procedure." Jimmy's eyes flick to the recorder. Every word is evidence. He shrugs. "Slap it on. Smooth it with a spoon. Wait for T. Muller nods to the medic. A second needle, this one. Adrenaline." Jimmy's heart slams against his ribs. Sweat beads. She tries again. The catalyst. A liquid. A powder. Smell. Color. Jimmy laughs. Horse. Smelled like victory. Richter loses patience. He lifts a photo-grainy reconnaissance shot of RAF Manston, a row of Spitfires with fresh patches on wings. "Your squadron patched 14 aircraft in March alone. Someone mixed bulk quantities. You flew escort for the mixer. 3rd of March. Name him." Jimmy's mind races. The mixer, Sergeant Elsie Mac McPherson, WAF, 19 years old, freckles like cinnamon. She'd handed him a cuppa while stirring the goo with a wooden spatula. If they trace her. He clamps his jaw. Muller sighs, sets the clipboard down. She opens a drawer, removes a small brown bottle, phenol. The smell hits Jimmy like a memory of field hospitals. She uncorks it. "We can do this the slow way." Richter hesitates. Dr. Berlin wants him alive for exchange leverage. Muller doesn't blink. Berlin wants the formula more. She tips a drop onto a cotton swab, holds it under Jimmy's nose. His eyes water. A klaxon blares 3 short bursts. Air raid. The lights flicker. Distant crump of bombs. American B-17s, high altitude, probably after the docks at Rostock. The building shudders. Dust sifts from the ceiling. In the confusion, Jimmy's cuffs, loosened earlier by the medic for circulation, slip a fraction. He twists, feels the ratchet give one tooth. Richter swears, grabs the recorder, heads for the stairs. Muller follows, bottle still in hand. The medic scrambles after. The door slams, bolts thrown. Darkness, only the red standby bulb. Jimmy works his wrists. Skin tears, blood slicks the metal. One cuff pops free, then the other. He staggers up, legs screaming. The workbench, scissors, scalpel. The red tin. He pockets the tin, stuffs gauze into his mouth to muffle the pain, and limps to the ventilation grate. Above, anti-aircraft guns bark, searchlights carve the sky. In the chaos, no one notices the sub-basement door easing open. Jimmy melts into the corridor. Alarms wail. Somewhere a guard shouts. He has minutes, maybe less, before they realize the bird has flown. And in his pocket the last unopened tin of Redeemer burns like a grenade. April 13, 1943, 14:27. Recklin corridors, dim red bulbs. The stink of cordite drifting down from the roof. Jimmy Hargrove presses his spine to cold concrete, bare feet silent on the grit. The tin of Redeemer is wedged inside his waistband, a hard coin against his hip bone. His calf is a furnace. Every heartbeat pumps hot pus down his ankle. Voices echo from the stairwell. German clipped furious. Richter's tenor cuts through. "Find the Englishman. He knows the catalyst." Boots thunder upward. They think he's heading for the hangars. Jimmy goes the other way. Down a maintenance hatch. Knee-high, stenciled Luftwaffe. He drops, shoulder to the metal, hinges, squeal. Inside, a crawlspace thick with dust and the drone of fans. He drags the hatch shut behind him, wedges the scalpel through the hasp as a makeshift lock. The duct is coffin tight. He inches forward on elbows, gauze clenched between teeth. 10 meters in, the shaft splits. Left, the roar of the main exhaust. Right, cooler air, faint smell of aviation fuel. He chooses right. Above, Muller storms into the lab. The empty chair spins slowly. Blood smears the floor like a signature. She snatches the intercom. "Ali Posten. Der Jeffingen ist in Kommen. Sublevel dry. Wir von Sparren." Jimmy's palms skid on condensation. The duct narrows, his shoulders wedge. He exhales until his ribs ache, wriggles through. A grill ahead, moonlight beyond. He peers down a loading bay. 2 Kubelwagons, canvas sides flapping. A lone sentry lights a cigarette. Back turned, he kicks the grill. It clanks to the concrete. The sentry spins, rifle rising. Jimmy drops cat-like, lands on the man's shoulders. They crash together. The cigarette arcs, sparks. Jimmy's forearm locks across the throat, pressure twist. The sentry goes limp. Keys on the belt. Jimmy drags the body behind crates. Strips the greatcoat. It smells of tobacco and goose fat. He buttons it over his bare chest. Pulls the cap low. Limps to the nearest Kubelwagen. Engine turns over with a cough. Gate open, chaos outside. Fire crews race toward burning fuel dumps. B-17 bombs walk across the airfield in perfect ladder patterns. Tracers stitch red lace across the sky. No one challenges a staff car speeding the wrong way. Jimmy floors it. The tin of Redeemer rattles in the passenger footwell. At the main gate, a barricade, 2 sentries wave him down. He rolls the window, keeps his face shadowed. Sondertransport für Oberstornberger. He barks in the clipped Junker accent he learned from prisoners at Biggin Hill. One sentry hesitates, then lifts the pole. Gravel spits. The Kubelwagen fishtails onto the access road behind. Sirens rise like wolves. Headlights flare in the mirror pursuit. Jimmy's mind is glass clear despite the fever. He needs distance, a radio, and someone who still believes the war can be won with secrets instead of blood. 5 kilometers south, a pine forest swallows the road. He kills the lights, veers onto a logging track. The tin bounces, lid loosening. A bead of Redeemer oozes clear, viscous, catching starlight like liquid diamond. He skids to a halt beside a stream. Kneels with the scalpel. He slices the seat cushion, buries the tin deep inside the stuffing, wraps it in the greatcoat. Then he smears mud over the bundle, wedges it beneath a fallen log. Marker, 3 stones in a triangle. He whispers the coordinates to himself until they burn behind his eyes. Headlights sweep the tree line. He slips into the water. Ice needles his wound. Wades downstream, current tugging at his legs. Behind him, the first pursuit car overshoots the turn. Brakes squealing. Richter leaps out, pistol drawn. Torch beams rake the underbrush. Jimmy submerges, holds his breath until his lungs scream. When he surfaces 50 yards downstream, the forest is quiet again. Only the crackle of burning Recklin on the horizon. He has lost the tin, but the forest now holds Britain's sharpest agent, the only man alive who knows where. April 14, 1943, Sandenschaffen, Muritz Lake District, 28 kilometers south of Recklin. The stream has widened into black water, reeds hissing like gossip. Jimmy Hargrove floats on his back, greatcoat sodden, blood threading pink ribbons behind him. Fever paints the stars in watercolor streaks. He lets the current carry him. Every kick is a negotiation with the infected leg. The forest exhales pine and wet earth. Somewhere an owl calls, slow and deliberate. A shape detaches from the bank, low, silent, a coracle pulled by a woman in a dark shawl. She is maybe 40, face carved by wind and wood smoke. Her eyes find his in the moonlight. Englander, she whispers. Jimmy nods once. She maneuvers alongside, extends the pole. He grips it. Pain flares white-hot as she hauls him aboard. The coracle rocks. A boy no more than 12 huddles in the stern, clutching a lantern shuttered to a pinhole. Name, she asks in careful school English. Jimmy, I am Marta. This is Lucas. You bleed too much. She tears a strip from her petticoat, binds the wound tight above the knee. The pressure is brutal, but the bleeding slows. Lucas offers a flask schnapps that burns like aviation spirit. Jimmy swallows, coughs, swallows again. Marta poles south, hugging the reed line. We take you to the Raven. She flies tonight. The Raven. Jimmy's fogged brain snags on the code name. Resistance. A Lysander pickup, maybe. He'd heard whispers in the Dulag, mess black-painted Westland, moonlit meadows, engines muffled with heather. Behind them, distant searchlights still rake the sky over Recklin. Richter's hunters are combing roads, not rivers. They glide for an hour. The lake narrows into a canal. Willow branches comb the water. Lucas kills the lantern entirely. Ahead, a faint green flash once, twice. Marta answers with a red lens. The coracle bumps a muddy bank. 2 men in civilian clothes but with the posture of soldiers haul Jimmy out. One is tall, gaunt, a Wehrmacht deserter's scar across his throat. The other is shorter, French accent thick. Bin Vainway, mon ami. I am Raven too. The bird is thirsty. They half carry him across a pasture to soak his feet. In the center of the field, a Lysander, matte black, invasion stripes painted out. The pilot, Flight Lieutenant Evelyn Eve Green, WAAF, leans against the strut, cigarette glowing. Christ, you look like death on toast, she says. Can you walk? Fly me and find out? Eve grins, helps him into the rear cockpit. The scar-throated man hands up a canvas bundle. Jimmy's buried greatcoat still muddy, the tin of Redeemer safe inside the cushion. How, Jimmy rasps. Marta's voice drifts from the darkness. Lucas followed your stones. Children see everything. The propeller coughs, catches. Evie taxis to the far end, turns into wind, throttle open. The Lysander lurches, bumps, lifts. Treetops scrape the undercarriage. Below, headlights converge on the meadow too late. Machine gun tracers arc upward, harmless sparks. Jimmy clutches the bundle to his chest. The tin is warm from his body heat. Eve banks west, climbing into cloud. Home in 90 minutes. Sunshine, then the boffins can have their precious goo. Jimmy closes his eyes. The engine song is the sweetest sound he's ever heard. But in the Lysander's slipstream, a single page flutters free from the bundle and RAF Form 1180. Jimmy's accident report, clipped inside the greatcoat pocket. It spirals down, lands in the reeds. By dawn, Richter will find it. And the hunt will begin again. April 14, 1943, 5:43. The same meadow now churned to slurry by Lysander tires and German boots. Oberleutnant Karl Richter crouches in the dawn mist. gloved fingers lifting the sodden RAF Form 1180 from a clump of reeds. Ink has run, but the header is legible. Accident report Spitfire Mk9, serial EN398. Beneath in Jimmy's hurried scrawl, starboard wing root repaired 48 hours prior with Redeemer, compound, batch R17. Richter's pulse drums against his collar. Batch R17, a serial number, traceable. Behind him, Muller arrives in a Hawk staff car, coat buttoned to the throat against the chill. She takes the form, holds it to the rising light. 17, that is a production lot. I slough, almost certainly a Kuba wagon skids up. Hauptmann Voss leans out, face grim. Berlin is livid. Milk wants the formula on his desk yesterday. Find the pilot, find the tin, or we all fertilize Siberia. Richter folds the form into an oilskin wallet. The tin is gone, but the batch number is a key. Muller's eyes flick to the tire tracks. The aircraft flew west, Tangmere sector. They will analyze the sample within hours. Richter nods. Then we must be faster. He turns to a signals sergeant. Flash priority to Abwehr Lisbon. Activate Condor. Tell him the Eagle has lost a feather and the feather has a number. Across the channel. 620. RAF Tangmere. Dispersal hut warmed by a coke stove. Jimmy Hargrove lies on a camp bed, leg cleaned and stitched by a harried mow. The tin of Redeemer sits on a crate, lid pride contents photographed under magnesium flash. Eve Green stands over a field telephone, voice low. Yes, group, the sample is intact. Batch R17. Pilot confirms field application only. Full synthesis unknown to him. In the corner, a civilian in a rumpled tweed suit, Dr. Norman de Bruyn himself, flown in from Slough Piers at the GU through a pocket lens. His fingers tremble. My God, they used the pure araldite base, no diluent. That's why it held at altitude. Jimmy props himself on an elbow. Dr. Jerry's had a wing section. They were close if they get a production batch. De Bruyn's face hardens. Then we change the recipe tonight. He snaps open a briefcase, vials of amber liquid, powders in wax paper. We swap the hardener for a new amine. Same strength, different fingerprint. Any German duplicate will fail in 6 months. Brittle. As Toffee Eve hangs up the phone. Orders from Fighter Command. The tin is to be destroyed after sampling. No complete batch leaves this hut. Jimmy's heart sinks. That tin saved my life. And others. De Bruyn meets his gaze, and it will doom us all if Jerry scales it. We burn it. We live to glue another day. Outside, Dawn Patrol Spitfires cough to life. Eve offers Jimmy a cigarette. He takes it with shaking fingers. In Lisbon, 9 o'clock local, a man in a white linen suit codename Condor, real name Klaus Vogel, receives the Abwehr flash at a cafe overlooking the Tagus. He memorizes the batch number, burns the message in an ashtray. By noon he is on a neutral Swedish freighter bound for Hull. Papers listing him as a Swiss ball-bearing salesman. In his valise, a single objective: locate ICI Slough's Redeemer production line, photograph the reactor logs for batch R17, and vanish. The tin is ash by then, scattered over Tangmere's rosebeds, but the war for the glue has only begun. And Jimmy Hargrove, leg and plaster, is about to learn that some secrets stick long after the fire. April 15, 1943, 2347, ICI Slough, Building 43, blacked out, but inside a hive of white coats and blue sparks. Dr. Norman de Bruyn stands on a catwalk above Reactor 4, stopwatch in hand. Below, a stainless steel vat churns 400 gallons of new araldite hardener swapped, cure curve redrawn. The air is thick with phenol and the electric temps of fear. A WAAF cipher clerk climbs the ladder, hands him a flimsy flash from Lisbon station. Condor is inbound. At the Hull Setos Asientos tomorrow. De Bruyn's jaw tightens. Then we have 7 hours to erase batch R17 from the face of the earth. He barks orders. Logbooks are yanked from shelves, pages torn and fed to a brazier. Glass plates of spectrometer traces smashed. A junior chemist hesitates over a tray of test coupons, aluminum strips glued with the old formula. De Bruyn snatches them, hurls them into a drum of acid. The metal hisses like bacon. Downstairs, Sergeant Elsie McPherson, freckles stark under fluorescent lights, supervises the loading of 50 sealed drums labeled industrial varnish none. Each contains the last of R17, diluted to uselessness. A convoy of RAF lorries waits outside, engines idling. Mac catches De Bruyn's eye. Sir, if Jerry gets even a sniff, they won't. He cuts in, not from us, but across the Thames. In a Nissan hut at Bletchley Park, a different war rages. Enigma intercept, priority ZZZ, Condor en route Hull, stop batch R17 imperative. STOP photograph reactor logs, stop, avoid capture. The duty officer, Commander Travis, slams the decrypt onto the table. Thereafter the glue factory. Ring MI5, ring the Home Guard, ring the bloody fire brigade. April 16th, 412 Hull docks. Fog thick as felt. Klaus Vogel Condor steps off the Swedish freighter with a Leica in a hollowed-out prayer book. A dock worker in a flat cap bumps him, murmurs, "Follow the goal." Vogel trails the man through warehouses to a Morris van. Inside, two SO agents in grease-stained overalls. One presses a Webley to Vogel's ribs. Evening for its hands where we can see them. Click of cuffs. The prayer book is opened. The Leica spills film like black confetti. Back at Slough 5:30. De Bruyne watches the convoy roll out 50 drums. 1 decoy route to Scotland, 1 to a quarry in Wales. 3 circling London to confuse reconnaissance. He exhales for the first time in days. Mac offers him a mug of tea, strong enough to stand a spoon. Think it's over, sir. He sips, winces, until the next accident, but 400 miles north, in a stone barn outside Reims Oberleutnant Richter unfolds a map. A red pin marks off a second pinhole. A third Tangmere. Muller enters, coat dusted with ash from Recklin's ruins. Condor is dark. Assume compromise. Richter taps the map. Then we change the question. We don't need the old glue. We need the man who can make it again. He circles a name in red ink, Andy Bruin. Below it, in smaller letters, Lars Seenslav. The barn door creaks open. A courier hands Richter a fresh intercept. Target relocated Cambridge Cavendish Lab. Richter smiles for the first time in a week. Pack the car. Doctor, we're going to university. The glue is gone. The war for the mind behind it is just starting. April 17, 1943. 2:06, Cambridge. The old Cavendish laboratory, red brick, glowing under a sliver of moon. Dr. Norman de Bruyne slips through a side gate. Collar up, carrying a cardboard suitcase that weighs nothing and everything. Inside 3 notebooks bound in RAF blue tape. The only remaining record of the Redeemer catalyst. The rest is smoke and acid. He is not alone. 2 Mi-5 shadows ghost him at 20 paces ex-Scotland Yard, now armed with Sten guns under raincoats. A third agent, posing as a porter, whistles oranges and lemons from the porter's lodge. All clear. De Bruyne's breath fogs. He has 40 minutes to reach the underground strongroom beneath the Mont building before the Home Guard seals the city. After that, he vanishes. New name, new face, new continent. He never hears the silenced Walther a single cough. The left-hand shadow drops, throat blooming red. The second agent spins, Sten rising too late. A blackjack cracks his skull. From the mouth of the alley steps Oberleutnant Karl Richter, black leather coat, Luger steady, Guten Abend. Doctor, you've kept us waiting. Muller appears beside him, syringe already unclapped, sodium thiopental. He'll sing the entire recipe before breakfast. De Bruyne backs against the gate, suitcase clutched like a shield. You'll never get me out of England. Richter smiles. We don't need to. We only need your voice for 90 seconds. He nods to a third figure, Klaus Vogel Condor, alive after all, wrists raw from sawn cuffs. Vogel raises a wire recorder the size of a lunchbox. Red light blinking. De Bruyne's eyes widen. You want me to read the formula aloud? On German soil it's worthless. Mi-5 will jam every frequency. Richter checks his watch. Not German soil, Portuguese. The embassy in London is neutral territory. A diplomatic car is idling in King's Parade. 90 seconds, Doctor, then you walk free. A lie so obvious it circles back to truth. Behind them, the porter's whistle breaks off mid-note. Boots pound cobblestones. Home Guard, alerted by the silenced shot. Richter swears. Muller lunges with a syringe. De Bruyne swings the suitcase. It bursts open. Notebooks scatter like white birds. Richter dives, scoops one. Vogel snatches another. Muller's needle grazes De Bruyne's neck. Half dose. His knees buckle, but rage keeps him upright. Headlights flood the alley. Not the diplomatic Mercedes and Austin ambulance. Home Guard markings. Doors fly open. Tommy guns, spit orange. Richter returns fire. 2 rounds, then drags Muller behind a dustbin. Vogel sprints, notebook clutched to chest. Wire recorder trailing cable like a severed artery. De Bruyne staggers, vision tunneling. He sees the third notebook still in the gutter, pages flipping in the wind. With the last of his strength he falls on it, palms smacking the formula into the mud. Boots surround him. A sergeant kneels. You hit, sir. De Bruyne laughs, tasting blood and barbiturate. Only my pride. Across the lane, Richter and Muller melt into the maze of colleges. Vogel is gone, swallowed by the river mist rolling off the cam. 10 minutes later, a fishing punt slips from beneath Silver Street Bridge. Vogel crouches in the bow, recorder lashed to his life jacket. Notebook pages photographed by moonlight with a match flare. The current carries him toward the sea. At the Cavendish strongroom, De Bruyne, half-conscious, watches an armorer feed the mud-smeared notebook into a furnace. The flames are blue, almost beautiful. Tell me we changed the hardener, he slurs. Twice, the Mi-5 man says. Batch S9, even if they rebuild R17, it crystallizes at -10. Useless above the Baltic. De Bruyne closes his eyes. Then let them have the echo. April 18th, 6 o'clock. A Junkers Rue 52 painted in neutral Swedish colors lifts off a fog-bound field in Galicia. Inside, Richter develops the film in a portable dark bag. The formulary ratio, every degree Celsius, glows negative on the glass. Muller mixes the first test batch in a pressure cooker. It sets hard, clear, perfect. By May, FW-190s roll out of Bremen with glued spars. By June, they fracture in the first cold snap over Finland. By July, the Reich's best adhesive is nicknamed Brittle Star, and in a quiet ward at RAF Hospital Ely, Jimmy Hargrove, leg-heeled crutches across his lap, receives a visitor. Dr. De Bruin and thinner eyes older. Jimmy offers a crooked grin. Heard Jerry built a cathedral with our glue. Roof fell on their heads. De Bruin sets a small tin on the blanket, new label. New batch, Redeemer, Mark II. Stronger, warmer, and ours alone. Jimmy turns the tin over. Embossed on the bottom, a tiny Spitfire silhouette. Next time I crash, he says, remind me to land on a forest that bites back. They laugh until the sister threatens bedpans outside the window. England sleeps under a blanket of cloud. Somewhere inside it, the real glued rust, ingenuity, and the refusal to hand tomorrow to the enemy hardens minute by minute. Stronger than metal. Stronger than fear.